What does it mean to be truly rich? We spend our lives climbing the mountain of success. We chase the money. We chase the fame. We chase the possessions. We think that when our hands are full, our hearts will be full. But have you ever noticed, the more things you own, the more things own you? What happens when you reach the top of the world, only to realize you are completely alone? This was the silent agony of a man named Cassian. He was a merchant king, a man whose name was synonymous with wealth. He lived in a palace of marble and gold, a fortress of opulence. He had servants to answer every whim, chefs to prepare feasts of exotic foods, and vaults overflowing with treasures from every corner of the known world. His robes were heavy with golden thread, his fingers burdened by rings holding stones the size of a bird's egg. He had everything a person could dream of, yet he woke up every morning feeling a terrible, aching emptiness inside his chest. This void was his constant companion. He would walk through halls filled with priceless art he never truly looked at. The vibrant colors and masterful strokes were just patterns on a wall. He would sit at a table laden with rare delicacies, but he could not taste the food, the spices of the East, the fruits of the South. It was all just texture in his mouth, consumed without joy, without notice. He would sleep on beds of the finest silk, but his nights were filled with nightmares. He dreamt of suffocating under the weight of his own gold, of being trapped in a beautiful cage with no key. The world saw him as the pinnacle of success, but inside he was a ghost haunting his own magnificent life. This emptiness began to consume him. It was a sickness that no physician could diagnose and no treasure could cure. In his desperation, Cassian began to ask to listen. He sent his agents far and wide, not for gold or for land, but for a cure to his spiritual malady. Finally, a whisper reached him, a rumor of a man in the distant hills, a man said to be the happiest, most contented soul in the entire kingdom. Cassian, fueled by a flicker of hope, prepared for a grand expedition. He imagined this man must be another king, perhaps even wealthier than himself, a sage who had unlocked some secret to profound joy through even greater accumulation. He traveled in his gilded carriage, followed by a train of guards and servants, but the path grew narrow and rugged, forcing him to abandon his carriage, then his horse. Finally, on foot, huffing and sweating in his heavy finery, he arrived not at a palace, but at a tiny wooden hut nestled against the hillside. The windows were open, letting in the breeze and the sound of birds. And there, sitting on a simple mat, was Elias, an old man with a kind, weathered face, holding nothing but a wooden bowl and a small bamboo flute. Cassian stood there, breathless and bewildered. He looked at the old man, then at the sparse interior of the hut. There was nothing. No gold, no silks, no art, just a sleeping mat, the bowl, the flute, and the light streaming through the window. Contempt and frustration surged through him. He had traveled all this way for a beggar. He spoke, his voice laced with disdain. They told me you were the happiest man in the kingdom. How can that be? You are a beggar. You have nothing. I have everything. I own mines and ships and palaces, and I am the most miserable man alive. This must be some kind of joke. Elias looked up, and a gentle smile touched his lips. It was not a smile of pity, but of deep understanding. You do not have everything, my friend, he said, his voice as calm as a still lake. You are carrying everything. There is a difference. Cassian stared, uncomprehending. Elias gestured for him to sit. He picked up a small clay teapot and a single, simple cup. He began to pour the tea. He filled the cup to the brim, but he did not stop. The amber liquid spilled over the sides, running down the cup and pooling on the small wooden tray. It kept pouring and pouring, a stream of wasted tea. "What are you doing?" Cassian finally burst out. "The cup is full. It can't hold any more." Ilias stopped pouring and set the pot down. He looked at Cassian, his eyes clear and direct. "Your life is like this cup, Cassian. It is so full of things, so full of gold, of worries about your ships, of concerns about your reputation. It is overflowing with tasks and possessions and anxieties. There is no room left for anything else. There is no room left for life." Cassian was silent. The image of the overflowing cup stuck in his mind. Elias continued, his voice soft but profound. "Imagine a room, a beautiful, grand room. Now, imagine filling that room from floor to ceiling with the most exquisite furniture, with stacks of gold coins, with chests of jewels. It is valuable, yes, very valuable. But tell me, can you dance in that room? Can you sit with a friend and share a story? Can you feel the warmth of the sun on your face? No, there is no space. You are poor, Cassian, because you have no space. True wealth is not what you gather. True wealth is the empty space where peace can sit. It is the quiet moment where you can hear your own heart. I have nothing, and so I have room for everything. I have room for the song of the wind, for the warmth of the sun, for the music of this flute, for the simple taste of water." As Elias spoke, it was as if a bolt of lightning struck Cassian's soul. The words echoed in the sudden silence of the hut. He looked down at his own hands, at the heavy gold rings that felt, for the first time, like shackles. He looked at his stiff, embroidered robes, and realized they were not clothes, but armor. Heavy, suffocating armor he had worn for years. He saw his life with terrifying clarity. He had not been building a kingdom. He had been building a golden cage, bar by beautiful bar. He had spent all his energy, all his time, all his life decorating the cage, polishing it, adding more gold to it, all while the person inside slowly withered away. He understood in that heart-stopping moment that he had been feeding his ego but starving his soul. Elias, with his empty bowl and open window, was not a beggar. He was free. He was truly rich. Cassian returned to his palace a different man. The journey back felt lighter, even though he was walking the same path. The change was not instantaneous, but it was decisive. He walked into his grand halls, and for the first time, he saw the clutter. He saw the weight of it all. He began. He started not with his ledgers or his maps, but with his own chambers. He ordered the heavy, light-blocking tapestries to be taken down. He had the dozens of ornate, unused chairs removed. He opened the windows that had been sealed for years to protect the precious fabrics from the sun. A fresh breeze, carrying the scent of rain and earth, filled the room for the first time in a generation. He began to give things away, not with a sense of loss, but with a feeling of liberation. He gave treasures to museums, lands to his tenants, and fortunes to found schools and hospitals. Each item that left his palace felt like a stone being lifted from his own shoulders. The final scene of his transformation was a simple one. One evening, as the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Cassian sat not on his throne, but on a simple wooden chair in a now mostly empty room. The golden light streamed through the open window, warming his face. In his hand, He held not a golden goblet, but a simple clay cup, the same kind Elias had used. It was filled with plain, cool water. He brought the cup to his lips, took a slow sip, and closed his eyes. And for the first time in his memory, he truly tasted it. He tasted the water. It was crisp, it was clean, it was real. He had less than he had ever had in his entire adult life. But as he sat there, watching the sunset paint the empty wall, he finally had enough. The moral of this story is that material abundance can often lead to spiritual poverty if we let our possessions consume the space meant for living. True wealth is not found in the accumulation of things, but in the freedom and inner peace that comes from creating space within our lives. It's about having enough room to breathe, to feel, and to simply be. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more reflections on finding meaning in our modern world.